Okay, everyone, I am back. I apologize for the problems, all these technical difficulties, but today we are going to talk about the GOP and misinformation and how it can affect the Black community, because there's a problem. So to start off, I want to talk about a couple of people first. Senator Rand Paul, who constantly goes after Dr. Fauci whenever he possibly can. And I want to talk about Candace Owens, okay, the Black star of the conservative party. They love her because she disses people of her own race. So that is what we are going to talk about. So we're going to get started. And between Rand Paul, the megas out there, but let's get started with Candace Owens. Candace Owens is someone who she's she was pretty much unknown about 2 years ago until she was asked to speak at a conservative event at a college, and then she exploded. She went from being liberal to being conservative. So I am going to play this for you. And I want you guys to tell me what you think. And also feel free to use the chat. All right, so we are going to, hold on here. What did I just do? Okay, here we go.
Black Americans is being insulted every single day. I will not pretend to be a victim in this country. I know that that makes many people on the left uncomfortable.
And Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee were extremely uncomfortable as Candace Owens just slashed at the narratives of the people like Nadler and Ted Lieu. In fact, when C-SPAN tweeted out the video of the confrontation with Lieu, it racked up 4.47 million views in less than 24 hours. It's a Twitter record for that network. Joining me now in her first interview since the explosive hearing is Candace Owens herself. She's the comms director for Turning Point USA, and Leo Terrell, civil rights attorney. We have both sides represented here tonight. Candace, why do you think that your moment, and I watched it from beginning to end, has drawn such attention, and what has been the reaction to you personally since?
Well, I think it drew attention for a lot of reasons. I think in many ways, people on the right felt vindicated. I know that there were a lot of moderate people that came over and realized that what I was talking about were actually real issues in Black America. I touched upon the illiteracy rates. 75% of Black boys in California not being able to read is a problem in Black America. White nationalism, when Black on Black crime, 90.1% of all homicides against Black Americans are performed by other Black Americans. The entire hearing, in my opinion, was a hoax. The continued hoax on Black America, which comes to us from Democrats who want us ultimately to fail by focusing on something that is not harming us when you look at all of the other issues that we are facing.
Now, Leo, you watched, I'm sure, at least part of what Candace said yesterday. Your reaction?
Well, I just see right now Candace Owens is getting 15 minutes of fame, and just give me 30 seconds to prove my point. She just, again, assumed that all Democrats are hoping that Black people fail. On her interview with C-SPAN, she says that the word nationalism has been compromised or poisoned by elitists. Tell that to the people in Charlottesville. She then tried to put herself in the same category of Donald Trump, talking about the false narrative. But the part that was so insulting, when she's promoting her employer and said that she went to Jerusalem and not a single Democrat went there. Ms. Owens, let me tell you, 72% of Jewish Americans voted for Democrats. So you did a great job of promoting yourself and playing the victim. And by the way, it's not just Black people who were not stupid by what you said. Americans were not stupid, because I listened to everything you just said. And I hope you can challenge what I said about the number of Blacks, number of Jews who support Democrats. But you did a good job of marketing yourself today, putting yourself in the same boat as the president. Good job, Candace.
All right. So the
Okay,
personal attack, I just want to, for the record, I
That's
just
a
want to say
personal
that
attack.
personal attacks continue. That Leah was you're attacking her
It was a
character.
personal attack.
She's
said
mentioning
what happened.
issues. You're
You know what?
attacking her character and what she said.
Lauren,
You're not
she
attacking
just
the
said-
substance.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there. I'm going to stop that there because one thing that was so funny, I'm sorry. One thing that was so funny to me during that whole exchange was Laura Ingraham comes back and says, "That's a personal attack. That's a personal attack. You're attacking her character." And all Fox News does, all Laura Ingraham does, is make personal attacks and attacks someone's character. So that right there just had me laughing. But Candace Owens, I know, again, this one particular person who will remain nameless because I'm not going to say his name to give him a platform or anything, even though I am giving him a platform because I am saying this. But, he's the type of white Republican who told me, by the way, that he thinks Tucker Carlson is he thinks Tucker Carlson is one of the smartest people. He thinks Tucker Carlson is one of the smartest people out there, and I just nearly, fell over. But I just think that clip that I just showed, Candace Owens, in my opinion, is being used by the conservatives because she disses her own people, and conservatives love that. Fox News, they eat that up. And if you are a former Guy supporter, if I'm sorry, I just can't get over. I just cannot get over Laura Ingraham saying that that's a personal attack. Now I'm going to play another video clip, which again, I think is hilarious. So here we go. Okay, let's get this.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about?
Wow. It's still good. It's still unbelievable. Now the man Donald Trump called my African American says that he is leaving the GOP, can't support the president anymore. That man is Gregory Cheadle, and he joins me now. He is also, by the way, running for Congress in California's 1st congressional district as an independent. Thank you for joining us. And you have to laugh at that. You even laughed at that moment while it was happening, right?
Of course, man. It was funny.
Yeah.
Okay,
welcome to the show.
Funny back then.
At the time.
Thank you for having me in.
At the time, you said that you weren't offended by what the then candidate Trump, I should say, said. So,
right.
What have you seen since Trump's become president? What has changed your mind about him and about the party?
Well, I mean, he and the party have just shown that they have no interest in any other group but whites. Whites are the primary group. Everyone else may get crumbs, but his whole agenda is targeted toward benefiting whites. And that for the GOP as well. The GOP is, they want to slash Social Security. They want to slash welfare, but they don't say diddly squat about cutting subsidies, loan guarantees, lucrative government contracts and whatever else for the wealthy. And so they're all about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry. This whole show is just gonna have me laughing because I just think the things that it's like you're embarrassing yourself. Okay, first of all, Gregory Cheadle was a diehard Republican for about 12 years up to that point. Okay, he was a diehard Republican up to that point. And what is so funny is that when he says that he thought it was funny when the former guy said that, my African American, is like, hey, Kunta Kinte, come on over here. You know, I'm sorry. It's like, come on, yes, massa, yes, massa. It's like, he talks about how his family pretty much wanted to disown him, and if my father or anybody in my family, my husband, my son, it's like changing the locks, you're not getting back in, divorce, everything. I mean, how could you demean yourself to respond? And not only respond, is you're surrounded by a bunch of white maggots, that are like, yes, 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 you his nigga. I'm sorry. I just can't get over that. So you put Gregory Cheadle together with Candace Owens, and this is what you get. The GOP is using African Americans, to spread misinformation, and they're also spreading misinformation on their own that is affecting people in our communities. It's like, with COVID-19, and with what do I want to say, with COVID-19 and voting, and Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I have seen the tapes of January 6th over and over and over, as I'm sure many of you have. And I'm telling you, I have not seen not one of us in the bunch, storming the Capitol. I don't see not one of us. Now, what I do see is an African-American Capitol Police officer who's trying to diffuse the situation and lead the terrorists, away from the House floor and what have you, and even then, in terms of giving him the Congressional Medal of Honor, you still have Republicans who don't even want to give him that. Let's just, if we do something good like that, then our narrative will change. We can't keep telling people that, oh yes, there was, a bunch of white folks that went out and stormed the Capitol and wanted to hang the vice president, what have you. They're constantly throwing Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, at us. So people have to be smarter. But unfortunately, I don't think the GOP base is smart. I think the dog whistles that they throw out, people are constantly hearing them. People are constantly, going after them. I mean, it's like they have a dog whistle, and here's one dog sniffing behind another dog, sniffing behind another dog, sniffing behind another dog. That's what the GOP does. And Democrats, as I said before, we've got to be better with our messaging, but I just look at people like, again, I go back to Candace Owens, and it's disgusting, and it's funny, but it's not funny, and then we have Senator Rand Paul, okay? Every time he is on the Senate floor with Dr. Fauci, he picks a fight. Everything that Dr. Fauci does is some conspiracy theory. And I didn't get a chance to pull up the transaction or the exchange, but I will say, Dr. Fauci, what is the impact of conspiracy theories peddled by Senator Rand Paul and others on Americans' willingness to take the vaccine? And Rand Paul says, Dr. Fauci, do you support NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan? Dr. Fauci responded, Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect. And I have to give it to Dr. Fauci, whenever he's, talking to Rand Paul on the Senate floor, you can tell that Dr. Fauci is like, here we go again, and he's trying not to lose his temper. And Rand Paul, you know, it's like, where do you all get this? Excuse my friends, I'm just gonna say it. Where do you all get this shit from? I mean, it's like, do you all go home at night and say, yeah, I'm gonna say this. Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, this is good. Hey, so and so, we're gonna say this tomorrow. Okay, so we're gonna have an interview on Fox News, and we're gonna say this. Yeah. That's good. That's good. You know, I mean, it's the misinformation that is out there is just so bad that unfortunately a lot of it is directed at people who look like me, who like this. You know, it is, you know, and when white America hears this, all it does, as I've said before, it perpetuates the stereotype. And I am one for not perpetuating the stereotype. You know, I have a feeling that this summer is going to be a repeat of last summer, you know, because now we have Andrew Brown, you know, and you know, just all these shootings, Dante, right? You know, we have all these shootings that have happened, and there's no transparency. You know, I think the family of Andrew Brown, I really wish that somebody somehow had been able to tape and record what happened, you know, to him, because I think it's ridiculous that, you know, the family just now is being able to see the body cameras, 18 minutes, I do believe, of body camera footage where Andrew Brown is supposedly in those frames, you know. So I do believe that we are going to have a repeat of last summer. Hopefully, we will not result to breaking windows, and you know, don't perpetuate this stereotype. Let's just, you're going to go out and protest and march, whatever, just do it in a peaceful way, you know, what have you, and you know, don't stay out late at night, go home. You know, it's like when it starts to get dark, go home, because we do know that there were agitators from the Proud Boys and the 1%ers, you know, and what have you. They were out there last summer, you know, trying to incite violence, you know, but don't allow people to use us to further their own agenda. So we have to take all these narratives that the GOP is doing, and we have to, you know, flip it back on them. We cannot allow their narrative and what they're saying to continually affect us, you know. So on that note, I am going to continue playing the video with Don Lemon, because I want you to hear what Don Lemon had to say. So one moment here, and I will once again share the screen.
You know what folks are going to say? Well, shouldn't you have known that earlier? What took you so long to get there, Gregory?
Well, you know, when I've been in the party for I don't know how many years now, but, you know, I joined the party because there are so many people who just sit on the sidelines and complain. They get in front of their computer and just whine and complain. I'm a doer, and so I joined the party to try to make a difference.
Right.
I fell in love with the history of the Republican Party, and I just felt that within me that I could make a difference. I could bring awareness to the plight of Black people, and just have the people, you know, join me in that and trying to make a change. But the more I worked toward that end, the more resistance I was met with. And so finally just came to the point where I just could not stomach the rejection anymore and said, sayonara.
Hey, quickly, because I just want to get to what the president said about you, but you said that those go back tweets and the whole thing about Elijah Cummings, his attack against Elijah Cummings, Baltimore, you tweeted that had a profound effect. There was a tipping point for you.
Well, it was, you know, I just, the president is.
Well, you didn't tweet it. You pointed out the tweets that the word tipping point. Sorry, I screwed that up, but go on.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I forgive you, Don. No, it just got to the point where enough is more than enough.
Yeah.
And that was more than enough. And that was it.
Yeah,
No
this is what the President Trump was asked about losing your support. Let's listen what he said.
The man that you called my African American at your rally in 2016, he says he's leaving the Republican Party because you're pursuing a pro-white agenda. What's your reaction?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What?
What do you say to him? What do you say to him? He used to be a supporter of yours.
I don't know who you're talking about.
He's the man that you pointed out at the rally and called my African American.
I don't know. We have tremendous African American support. I would say I'm at my all-time high. We have the best numbers we've ever had for African Americans in terms of employment and unemployment. So I think we're going to do very well.
Okay, so the former guy says that we have our best numbers for African Americans. One, because he had his, I'm sorry, because he had his African American. So he had one. So in that case, instead of having zero, he had one. And now he's back to zero. Well, I take that back. He has Candace Owens. So he had two. Okay. So I don't know. It's like it takes the former guy talking about Elijah Cummings, who, recently passed away in the last year, and someone who fought for civil rights. It takes the former guy to say that for you to understand that he does not care about you. And then he doesn't, even though he knows who you are, but he's going to say on national TV that he doesn't remember you. Dude, really? I mean, these are the people that you support. It's like, I'm sorry, at what point does stupidity stop and common sense kicks in? And the fact that that he wanted to run for state rep in California as an independent. I'm like, why do we keep getting all the wackadoos in California? We got Kevin McCarthy, we got Devin Nunes. I mean, can we just move them on the East Coast? Move them out. But Cheryl's shaking her head like, I don't want them. Let's, seriously, but I'm sorry. I'm starting to ramble, but I just look at this and how much more do you want to embarrass yourself? How much more do you want, people who do not like you, and going back to what Chinese Americans did, back in December, some of them, not all of them, who gave donations to the Proud Boys, and they're saying, oh, because, we did it because, Black Lives Matter, they're communists and we don't want a communist country, and, and they're violent and what have you. And these people that you donated to went and stormed the Capitol where 5 people were killed. These are the, it's like, these people don't even like you. They don't like us. So these narratives that are out there, this misinformation that is out there that people are just, drinking up and sucking up, and they're taking your money, and they're, affecting us and causing death and it just doesn't make any sense. So in terms of the African American, in terms of us, and I'm not talking about Hispanics, I'm not talking about, Asian Americans, I'm talking about us. We ourselves have to make sure that we know what is going on, that we are always kept informed, that we know the people who are giving us information are giving us the correct information. And for all of my brothers and sisters out there who don't want to get vaccinated, I didn't want to get vaccinated either. One of the first things I thought of was the Tuskegee, I don't even know what I want to even call it. You know, it was like we were just guinea pigs, you know, whatever. That's one of the first things that I thought of, you know, but as more information came out and I started to talk to people, whatever, I knew one of the best things that I could do would be to get vaccinated, you know. So that's one way that we can keep living, because the more of us who die from COVID, that's one more Black person that doesn't vote. You know, the more of us, you know, that are, you know, get sick and die from COVID because we refuse to get vaccinated or wearing a mask or whatever, that's one less African American who, if you're over the age of 18, you're unable to vote. So on that note, I've been rambling. I'm going to ask, does anyone want to jump in? Put something in the chat, whatever. If not, I will keep going. Okay, I have, hold on 1 second. I am typing something back to someone. Okay, so I'm sorry, I have messages that are popping up on my phone, but they're not coming through on the chat. So, all right, so I'm gonna piggyback off of the misinformation to once again voting. Okay, because one thing that African Americans really did a disservice in 2016 was, I think a lot of people assumed that Hillary Clinton like had it in the bag, and even though what Comey pulled on her 2 weeks prior, you know, to the election, people still thought that she would probably still be able to pull it off. And one thing that we can never do is assume that somebody else is going to vote, that assume like, oh, well, you know, so-and-so is going to go out and vote. She'll have all these votes, you know, whatever. So I don't have to vote, you know, I don't have to go stand in line, what have you. That's wrong. And one of the main places that we see that, I'm gonna use it as an example, is even though I haven't watched the show in a very long time, is American Idol. You know, you would get down to the last 4 people, whatever, and you know, someone would be really, really popular and you didn't want to, you know, I'm not going to sit down and call in, whatever, the line's going to be busy, whatever, I'm not going to, you know, call in, whatever. That person's so popular, they're going to move on. And then we find out that person was eliminated because they didn't get all the votes that people thought they would. And this is where I think African Americans in 2016 did a disservice. And there were a lot of issues and people who did a disservice in 2016 that literally created the crap that we're dealing with now. You know, because sometimes I go back and I say, what if the former guy never got in? What if Hillary Clinton were president? You know, would January 6th have happened? No, it wouldn't have, because they weren't trying to come, you know, take over the votes and what have you. You know, would Ossoff and Warnock be senators right now if Hillary Clinton had won? You know, would people have been fired up enough to really go out and vote? You know, would McConnell still be the majority leader? You know, I mean, there's so many what ifs, you know, but one thing that I do believe is if Hillary Clinton were president, I think that the Americans that were lost last year and coming into this year from the pandemic, I don't think it would have been over, you know, we would not have been looking at numbers over 500,000 people. I mean, we would have lost some, but I don't think that it would have been what it was, because I think her response would have been a responsible one, and we would have tried to nip this in the bud. You know, I think that in some ways, reforming the police would have been we would have been more, how do I want to say, we'd be more advanced or whatever. We would be in a better position with law enforcement. You know, but at the same time, you know, it's like, I just come back and saying what I was saying the other day. We have to vote. We have to vote. We have to make sure that, you know, we're out there creating our own narratives for things that are happening in our neighborhoods. You know, I don't like listening to the Laura Ingrams, you know, talk smack. You know, I don't like listening to, you know, the things that Tucker Carlson says, and what Candace Owens says when she says 75% of Black boys in California cannot read. You know, I checked the numbers. That is incorrect. That is, that is a lie. You know, you know, yes, there is a problem with people of color in terms of education, but we are not stupid people. You know, we are not stupid people. You know, people think that, especially white conservatives, think that Black people come from single family homes. You know, we live in the ghetto and what have you. And people that I grew up with, that I went to school with, we all had a mother and father who had jobs. You know, there were doctors, there were lawyers. You know, there's a area, in Chicago called Pill Hill, and that's where, you know, Black doctors live. They call it Pill Hill. You know, and in high school, I did not know anyone. I did not know a Black person who had a single parent. You know, it wasn't until I got to college that, you know, I started meeting people of color who, you know, came from single parent homes. But even in high school or grammar school, the only time I actually knew someone who came from a single parent home was if a parent had passed away. You know, and everyone that I went to school with and everyone that, you know, that I grew up with on my block and a couple of blocks over, whatever, we all went to college, got degrees, you know, making good money, good jobs, you know, and their children, you know, masters, you know, and I have to give a shout out to Lolita, you know, so proud of, you know, your daughter at the age of 30, she is now doctor. You know, I mean, you know, we are not stupid people. We do not come from stupid people. You know, we are educated people, you know, and, you know, I have someone who criticizes Black people all the time. And I just look at them and I say, well, I look at my own nieces and nephews on both sides. I have my one niece got her master's at the age of 21. She went through an accelerated program. She got it in 8 months, you know. everybody, all my nieces and all the grandchildren in my family on both sides have all studied abroad, be it, London, I mean, they've all done it except for my son. He was supposed to go to Paris last March of 2020, but of course, COVID, so he couldn't go. He was going to study art at the Louvre. He was one of 15 students who was picked for his artwork to study at the Louvre, private lessons. So we do not come from stupid people. And we need to make sure that the stereotypes that are out there, that we ourselves are not perpetuating what the GOP, what conservatives, what, the people like the Kevin McCarthy's, and the, the former guy and whomever, that we are just these militant people who all we want to do is go out and cause mayhem and destruction and burn down buildings, and what have you. No, we don't. Even if we don't have college degrees, what have you. It's like you have people who are getting up every day, going to work, doing their jobs, trying to take care of their families, going to school, just trying to live their life in a good, positive way. And it just angers me, excuse me, when I see someone like Candace Owens, who, she may have a point here or there, but for the most part, I think she's being used by the Conservative Party. And does she even care? Because, her platform, she went, before she was known, she had like maybe, a couple of hundred followers on Twitter, and then, once she, gave that speech, at that university, whatever, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Candace Owens. Now, she has, millions of followers, and most of them are white conservatives who want to hear this, so, and then I look at Gregory Cheadle and it's like, dude, once again, it took someone talking about Elijah, Cummings, he was, what did he say? He was, he fell in love with the history of the Republican Party. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm a history buff myself. I mean, I love history, but at the same time, it's like the Republican Party, as I said the other day, is no longer the party of Lincoln. That's gone. That was gone 60, 70 years ago, and again, I bring back to when Nixon started his Southern strategy, in the 60s, they even started it, in the 50s. But what the Republican Party has become, it's like McCarthyism, in my opinion, McCarthyism 2.0. So before, where you had McCarthy back in the 50s railing against Hollywood and people who, supported communism in Hollywood and in the movie industry, now, fast forward to 2021 in the 21st century, we have people who are, they're doing the same thing. They're trying to silence you. They're trying to censor you. By the end of the day, Liz Cheney won't, more than likely will not have her position in the GOP anymore. When she goes back to Wyoming next year, for re-election, are they going to vote for her? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a Liz Cheney fan. I am not a Cheney family fan. But at the same time, I can say that she was not a flip-flopper, going from, dissing the former guy to supporting him to dissing him. And she's, pretty much stayed her course, whatever. And she said, that she cares about the democracy of this country, so, we'll see what happens, but in terms of African Americans, we have to come together, stay together, and again, this negative perception that we have to stop that within our own neighborhoods. We have to. I mean, Black Lives Matter. Yes, they do, but so do Black Lives Matter when there is Black on, Black crime. Yes, it does matter. We have to, so, we need to make sure that when our kids go to school, and they come home, that you are reading to them. Reading is just something that every child benefits from. I don't know if you guys remember when you used to go to school and you used to, what was the name of it? Where you could order books. You were able to order books, and they would come to the school, whatever, and, they were your books, whatever, but you were able to order books. I cannot remember the name of this company, but I used to order them for my son before he was homeschooled, whatever, but, you could order these books. And I remember that every month when it was time to order, my mom, I want this book, I want this book, I want this book, I want this book, whatever. And I remember every month I would have like 20 books that my mom would buy for me. And I used to sit there and I could read a book in like a day because I love to read, and then as I got older, and I started reading novels and what have you, I've always loved to read. I mean, even now when I read a book, I don't read it on Kindle. I don't read it, Audible, whatever. I pick up a book and I read. I have a library card. I go to the library and I check out books, and I make sure that, my son, he has a library card, whatever. And, I still use a dictionary, whatever. And when my son was, I mean, even now, but mainly when he was in school and he wanted to know what a word meant, I would say, look it up. And of course, we all say, well, if he would say, how do you spell a word? I would say, look it up. And of course, we all say, well, how do I look it up if I don't know how to spell it? Whatever. But it's like, go to the dictionary and look it up, whatever. And I never allowed him to, go to the computer to look things up. He always had to, we have a set of encyclopedias. It's like, go to encyclopedia, go whatever. He could never do the Wikipedia, whatever. And when he was homeschooled and everything was online and he had to start using Word and what have you, I still made him write out stuff. I would make him write it out and then he could type it in, whatever, but he had to write it out and he had to do it in cursive. And now, it's like my son, he has some of the most beautiful handwriting. And yes, I am giving my son some props, but when he was in 3rd grade and they were doing cursive writing and stuff, in November, my son was the only child who was allowed not to have to do handwriting anymore because his handwriting was just, his handwriting is beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful. He writes better than me, whatever. So, we need to do things where we're uplifting ourselves. We need to make sure that we're taking care of our own. Do not let someone else, do not let an outsider come in and create our narratives, because a lot of the things that people say about us, they aren't true. When they say, all Black people are on drugs, the majority of people on drugs are white folks. When they say, that, Black people are all on welfare, the majority of people getting welfare are white. The majority of people who are getting, SNAP and, whatever else is out there, it's not us. We just need to uplift ourselves and not let another, political party dictate who we are. And yes, that is a statistical fact. Yes, it is. It is. So hold on 1 second. I need to plug in to make sure I don't go out. There we go. All right. Let me. Yes. It is. So I mean, I don't know. There are so many stereotypes out there about us, that have just been ingrained in this country, for years and years and decades and centuries. Mainly a lot of it has to do with power. Keeping us from voting. A lot of this, the negative narratives and stereotypes, a lot of it, is all about power. And we need to take that power back. We need to make sure that the narrative that is being said and that is being written is a true and correct one, about us. Because, I'm gonna tell you, a friend of mine that I grew up with, she is a newscaster now. She's been a newscaster, probably for about 20 years or more, whatever. And this particular person who I'm always going at it, he lives in Chicago. And he called me about a month ago and asked me what type of person she was. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, I don't know if you heard, but apparently, there was a sportscaster who recently was fired from the network. He was white, and he called her a ditz on TV. And she went to HR, and after a couple of weeks or whatever, he was let go. So this person says, well, I think she overreacted, and, who is she, and blah, 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 whatever. And, is she even that smart, whatever. And I just started laughing because I said, oh yeah, she is smart. She's very smart. I said, growing up, and, we went to the same university, whatever. I said, she's a very smart person. And he seemed to have gotten offended by that. You know, whatever. He says, well, why do you have to keep saying that she's smart? I said, you asked me what type of person she is, and I'm telling you. You know, I said, are you offended because I said that she's smart? And he goes, well, no, but I said, but what? And he goes, well, you know, all Black people, you know, who are in the news or whatever, don't have college degrees. I said, well, she does. I'm like, so what is your point? You're calling me, asking me about her. What is your point? You know, whatever. So then he says, well, I just want to know, you know, you always seem to promote Black people who went to school or went to college, whatever. I said, no, I'm not trying to promote them, but when we're having a conversation and you're trying to make us sound stupid, I'm going to bring up the fact that, you know, this is what it is. You know, and I said, I've also, you know, realized that a lot of the white people that I engage with, you know, even people that I know now, don't have college degrees. And the Black people that I know do. You know, so I said, you know, even, you know, parents that you know, the parents of my friends that I grew up with, you know, they, you know, had college degrees or what have you, you know, whatever. And he says, oh, he goes, so your mom, well, she's a teacher. I said, well, she had to get a degree in order to teach. I said, yes. I said, and she also has her master's. And he was like, really? Your mom has her master's? Really? And I said, well, why'd you say it like that? I'm just surprised. Why are you surprised? Well, I said, does your mother have a college degree? No. Does your father have a college degree? No. Now you have one sister that has a degree, but the rest of your siblings don't, right? Well, yeah. So, oh, okay. I said, oh, by the way, my sister also has her master's. Really? You know, so it's like, again, you know, whenever I can let people like that know that we're educated and we're not stupid, I'm going to do it. Don't call me up asking me about, you know, a friend of mine that I went to, you know, that I grew up with in the neighborhood, you know, and I'm well aware of what she's doing and what have you. You know, don't call me up asking me about her and, you know, wanting me to just, or, you know, try to find some negative stuff just because, you know, your favorite sportscaster got fired because he said something stupid. And this particular sportscaster was known for saying stupid stuff. You know, it wasn't the first time. You know, so, and then he says, well, I'm surprised that you follow things like that. I said, oh, I always follow what is going on from the city that I grew up in, because I still have family and friends there. I follow what's going on all over the place because I always want to know what is going on. You know, and for people that I know, yes, he also said something negative about Walter Payton. That was true. And he had to later apologize. And the person I'm referring to is Mark Gian Greco. He is, or he was a newscaster for ABC News, you know, and he was a good newscaster. I mean, he was known all over the country. I mean, he was a good newscaster, but he was also someone who always put his foot in his mouth. And this time he put his foot in his mouth with the wrong person. And that person was like, I'm not going to take it. And this is what happened. I mean, you know, he sure he got a nice little package when he left, whatever. But this is what I'm saying. We have to push back. We cannot allow people to just throw stuff out there about us, and we just let it hang, and people are fine with it. We cannot do that. We have to write our own narrative. We have to control the conversation. We have to let people know who we are. So once again, I look at people who come from single family homes. And when I first moved out west, I was volunteering at this teen center in Watts. And I had only, been in California for about, 3 months. And, I wanted something to do. And someone said, oh, you should do this, whatever. And I'm like, well, where is that? I'm like, they're like, Watts. I'm like, Watts, whatever. So it was like on the other side of town from where I was. And this 12-year-old girl, she was just so incredibly sweet, smart as a whip. Smart as a whip. I mean, she was smart, very, 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 very smart. But her home life, wasn't that great, whatever. And a friend of mine came out to California, and she was out here to visit me for a week when I first moved out here. And we took this little girl with us to Hollywood. And she literally had never been outside of her, like the radius of her, like maybe a 5-block radius of her home. Never. And we went to this restaurant called Musu and Frank's. And it's a well-known restaurant, really, really good pasta. And she said that she had never been in a restaurant where they had tablecloths and they had silverware. She says, we were like, well, when do you go to a restaurant? And she's like, well, we go to McDonald's, whatever. And we're like, okay, whatever. So we're eating. And then the guy comes over, how they ask you, do you want, cheese or whatever? And they're doing the cheese thing, whatever. And we had to instruct her, on, this is what you do. He's asking you, he'll do this, whatever. So when we were leaving, my girlfriend left the tip. And the little girl ran back. I'm not going to say her name. She ran back, and she got the money, and she brought it to my friend. She says, "Here, you left your money on the table." And my friend had to say, "No, this is a tip. This is what we do when we have good service. Whatever. Go and put it back." So she went to put it back. Whatever. And then she came back and she goes, "I'll have to remember that." She kind of tilted her head to the side. And she said, "I'll have to remember that." So then we spent the rest of the day, just going up and down, looking, at the stars, on the street, whatever. We went to the Wax Museum, we went to Chinese Grauman's Theater, whatever you want to call it, whatever. And then she came back to my house. And she said, "You live here?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Wow." She goes, this is nice, whatever. So we had to take her home. And when we took her home, it was getting dark. And when we got to Watts, it was a little scary, whatever. And there was this woman walking. On the street. And she goes, "Lisa, stop. That's my mom. Can we give her a ride home?" I said, "Sure." So this woman gets into the car in the back seat with her. She's like, "Mom, this is Lisa, and we just came back from, blah, 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 had so much fun, blah, 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 blah." And needless to say, I was reluctant to even take Brandy home, because of her home life. you know, and she, I just said her name, whatever, but, you know, her boyfriend was living with her. She's 12 years old, had a 17-year-old boyfriend who her mom allowed to live with her as long as he gave her his paycheck every time he got paid. So when we were leaving, you know, my friend and I, we were talking, and I said, you know, for him to have to give her his his paycheck, she's pimping her daughter, you know, and it just broke my heart. And I gave her my phone number, and I am happy to say we've always kept in touch. She wanted some, when she went to high school, she would call me, and, you know, at one point she wanted to drop out. I'm like, no, you're too smart. I mean, she was extremely smart. I mean, you know, when she ended up, when she took her ACT test, whatever, she got like a 23, 24, you know, she ended up going to a college in Atlanta, because I encouraged her to move away from home, live in a dorm, you know, whatever. I helped her get, what do you call it? Grants and what have you, and scholarships, whatever. She ended up getting a full ride. And this was back in, what, 94? 94, yeah. So I'm happy to say, you know, that 20 years later, she is now a practicing attorney in Atlanta, you know, and she's a success. She's the narrative that, you know, you want to perpetuate. Yes, she came from a single family home. Yes, her home life was not the greatest, but with, you know, help and support, and with her own brain, because again, this girl is smart. You know, this is where she is. So, you know, we just need to, you know, just coming back and just saying, we just need to control our own narrative. We cannot allow other people to stymie us or pigeonhole us in a certain way. You know, you're Black, so you can only do this. You're white, so you can do this. You know, no. So my hour is up. I've gone on and on and on and on, you know, whatever. But you know, these are just things that bother me. And again, whenever I can give somebody a shout out, or when I can, you know, say good job, or even, you know, asking someone if you need help, you know, I will be there. I will help you. You know, if you're serious and you want help, if you're serious and you want to, you know, just, you know, make your life better. And if I can help you do that, then I will, because people have helped me. I mean, there are times when, you know, it was like times when I didn't know what I was going to do in certain situations, and people helped me, you know. So, you know, again, I say, you know, kudos to the people who were able to get degrees. Kudos to the people who are in the process of getting them. Kudos to the people who, even though you may not go down that path, because I don't necessarily think that you need a college degree. You know, a college degree does not define how smart you are. You know, kudos to the people who, you know, are just making it every single day. You know, and we just need to uplift our own. We need to, again, write our own narrative, because for me personally, I don't allow a white person to tell me what Black people should do. Okay, so until you're Black and you know, deal with some of the crap that we deal with, I don't want to hear it. you know, but that's all I have to say for today. So I thank everyone for coming. And again, speak your truth. And I will see you tomorrow. And I thank you very, 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 very much. So bye. Let me see if I can do this one more time. 2. All right. And why won't that play? Oh, okay. Maybe we'll end the meeting.